Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today I will be presenting about inflation in Hungary. Hungary is a Central European country that transitioned from a central planned economy to a market-based system in the 1990s. Since joining the European Union in 2004, Hungary has developed into an open and export-oriented economy. Manufacturing plays a major role, especially the automotive and electronic industry, with companies such as Audi, Mercedes-Benz and Suzuki operating in the country. The service sector also contributes significantly to economic growth. Hungary's main export includes vehicle, machinery, electrical equipment and pharmaceuticals, while its main import consists of machinery, raw materials and energy products. Importantly, Hungary relies heavily on imported oil and natural gas, mainly from Russia. This strong dependence made the country vulnerable to global energy price increase. Inflation in Hungary began rising after the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. Inflation was around 5%. It increased sharply to about 14.6% in 2022 due to higher energy and food prices. In 2023, inflation exceeds 17% on average, making Hungary one of the highest inflation countries in the European Union. This rapid rise price significantly increased the cost of living and reduced the household purchasing power.
Over the past 3 years, Hungary has experienced significant inflation with rates of 4.6, 7.1, and 3.7. One major cause of inflation in Hungary is import-push inflation due to the energy crisis. The Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022 disrupted global energy supplies and sharply increased energy prices. Hungary was heavily affected because it relies strongly on imported gas and electricity from Russia. Domestic energy production has consistently been far lower than consumption, which increased production costs and pushed prices up across the economy. Another contributing factor is cost-push inflation caused by supply chain disruptions. The COVID-19 pandemic, combined with the Russia-Ukraine war, delayed the import of raw materials from countries such as Russia and Italy. These delays increased transportation and shipping costs, forcing firms to raise prices to cover higher expenses. This inflationary pressure have had serious effects on Hungary's economy. Firstly, the government had to allocate a large portion of its budget to subsidy fuel and electricity. Hungary also paid gas prices well above the EU average during this period. Secondly, inflation reduced household savings. Rising prices of basic goods and energy forced households to spend more on daily necessities, lowering purchasing power and making it difficult to save, especially lower-income families. Thirdly, inflation worsened income inequality. Although wages increased, the cost of living rose faster than income. Lastly, high demand and supply disruptions caused shortages of essential goods, increased competition among consumers and driving prices even higher, which further slowed economic recovery.
Have you ever wondered how a country controls rising prices when everything suddenly becomes more expensive? Today, I will explain how Hungary tackled inflation using a combination of government policies. First, let's talk about the monetary policy. At the early stage, Hungary's central bank lowered interest rate to support economic recovery and encourage borrowing. However, when inflation started to rise rapidly, the strategy changed. The central bank raised interest rate to reduce spending and slow down demand. This move helped control price increases and stabilize inflation expectations. Next is fiscal policy. The Hungarian government took a careful approach by controlling public spending and reducing budget deficits. By improving tax collection and limiting unnecessary expenditure, the government reduced excess demand in the economy. This helped to support the central bank's effort to fight inflation. Now, let's move on to the direct policy. To protect the citizens, the government introduced public work programs to reduce unemployment. It also increased state involvement in important sectors such as banking and energy. On top of that, price controls on essential goods were introduced to shield households from sudden price hikes. So, was this approach successful? In the short term, yes. Employment increased and economic growth began to recover. However, in the long run, Hungary still faces challenges such as structural weaknesses and high public debt.
Now moving on to the recommendation part. Based on the inflation problem in Hungary, especially rising food prices, the recommended solution is strengthening food price stability through direct agricultural policy intervention. First, the Hungarian government should establish a national food price stabilization fund. This program directly intervenes in the food market by providing subsidies or temporary price controls on essential food items such as bread, meat, and dairy products during supply disruptions. This helps prevent sudden food price spikes that contribute to inflation. Second, the government should direct invest in domestic agricultural productivity, including irrigation system, digital farming technologies, and climate-resilient crops. This reduces dependence on food imports and protects the economy from exchange rate fluctuations and global commodity price volatility. Third, targeted subsidies should be provided to the livestock sector, particularly for animal feed and veterinary inputs. This policy helps stabilize meat and dairy prices, which are
Now,
highly
the second
sensitive to
recommendation is
inflation.
to introduce targeted credit facilities for productive sectors. Hungary successfully reduced inflation by tightening monetary policy, but the high interest rates also slowed investment and overall economic growth. Because of this, the IMF recommends that interest rates should be only lowered gradually and carefully once inflation is under control, so that inflation does not return when investor confidence is restored. At the same time, the central bank is encouraged to introduce targeted credit facilities for key productive sectors such as manufacturing, renewable energy, and small and medium enterprises (SMEs). These sectors are important because they support job creation, exports, and long-term economic stability. By doing this, Hungary can maintain price stability while also supporting sustainable growth and a stronger economic recovery. Now, the third recommendation is fiscal reforms to manage inflation in Hungary. Now, how tax and expenditure reforms can help Hungary manage inflation? Reforming the tax system and government spending can help lower inflation pressures and reduce household costs. One important step is to reduce VAT on essential food products and household energy. This would immediately lower living costs, while increasing taxes on luxury goods helps maintain government revenue and protect low-income households. On the spending side, Hungary should invest in energy efficiency and modern agriculture. These investments reduce production costs and strengthen Hungary's competitiveness within the European Union. Finally, a strong fiscal discipline is needed to avoid excessive deficits, which help maintain stability and support better long-term economic growth.